After much silence, Gregory Peck discusses Robert Mitchum. Eldred Gregory Peck entered this world at La Jolla, California on April 5, 1916, becoming Gregory Peck. Things were not always simple for him as a child. When he was a little boy, his parents split up, and his grandmother took over most of his care. Even though he had a rough start, Peck stood out from a young age thanks to his towering height, strong presence, and silent dignity. His interest in acting blossomed during his time at Berkeley, when he transferred from San Diego State College. Here Peck found the art form that would shape his life, and he resolved to devote himself fully to it. Peck started performing in the 1940s, and his talent and hard work swiftly took him to Broadway. Hollywood took notice of his talents and cast him in his first picture, 1944's Days of Glory. People were captivated by his genuineness, his talent for bringing characters to life with compassion and integrity, and his commanding presence. Quickly rising to the role of leading man, Peck appeared in Hollywood classics such as 1944's The Keys of the Kingdom, for which he was nominated for an Academy Award for the first time, with Alfred Hitchcock's Spellbound, 1945. Peck had a meteoric rise to fame in the 1940s and 1950s. His ability to play a variety of roles propelled him to stardom during that time, and he became one of the most popular actors of all time. In 1947's Gentleman's Agreement, which fearlessly dealt with anti-Semitism, he was nominated for another Academy Award for his portrayal of a tortured newspaperman. His work in westerns such as Duel in the Suns, 1946, and The Gunfighters, 1950, added depth and seriousness to an action-packed genre that was typically lacking in character development. He was also a master of romantic comedies such as Roman Holiday, 1953, in which he and Audrey Hepburn formed a legendary screen couple. To Kill a Mockingbird, which he played in 1962, was the turning point in Peck's career. Finch was a principled lawyer. The film, which was based on Harper Lee's Pulitzer Prize-winning novel, portrayed Peck as a courageous, kind, and morally upright man. Atticus Finch became a cultural hero, representing the finest of American values, fairness and justice, and won him the Academy Award for Best Actor for his powerful and subdued performance. This part is still widely considered a classic, even after all these years have passed. Peck's career flourished throughout the 60s, the 70s, and 80s thanks to outstanding performances in films like 1961's The Guns of Navarone and 1962's Cape Fear, in which he played the opposite of his typical role, as the victim of Robert Mitchum's terrifying villain. The 1969 Western McKenna's Gold, which showcased his charisma and an epic battle adventure. The Omen, a terrifying thriller released in 1976, introduced him to a new audience and demonstrated his versatility by catering to their changing interests. Gregory Peck was beloved for more than only his acting roles. His honesty, empathy, and dedication to helping others were also highly regarded. Concerning civil rights, social justice, and free speech, he was quite vocal. He was an outspoken liberal who donated his time and energy to equality groups and never backed down from standing up for what he believed in, no matter how controversial it became. Among the many accolades bestowed upon him for his societal and artistic achievements was the nation's highest civilian honor, the Presidential Medal of Freedom, bestowed upon him in 1969. Gregory Peck tied the knot with Greta Kokkonen, a Finnish-American actress who was active from 1911 to 2008. In October 1942, at the height of his career, an incredibly self-reliant and astute businesswoman, Greta came to America from Finland. A prominent figure in Los Angeles' Finnish-American community during her lifetime, she subsequently became interested in humanitarian and charitable activity. The first family Peck ever had was with Greta. They had 3 sons together. Jonathan Peck was born in 1944, Stephen in 1946, and Carrie Paul in 1949, the first 3 children of this couple. Even though Peck's career in Hollywood was booming, he found happiness and contentment with each of his children. Gregory and Greta were married for more than 10 years. However, they eventually split up due to irreconcilable issues. Their 13-year marriage came to an end in December 1955, after years of pressure, with their legal divorce. In Peck's personal life, the divorce was a terrible phase. Yet, the worst tragedy struck many years down the road when he lost his eldest son, Jonathan. Jonathan was discovered lifeless at his residence on June 26, 1975. Tragically took his own life, according to the authorities. Only 30 years old, he was. The pain and permanent mark that the tragedy made on Peck's heart meant that he would never fully recover from it. For Peck, the loss was the worst thing that had ever happened to him, and he has spoken frankly about it. An incident like that is impossible to overcome. His statements conveyed the profound sorrow felt by a father who, despite his notoriety and accomplishments, was unable to protect his loved ones from suffering. According to those who knew Peck, the loss of Jonathan altered him in a profound way, imbuing his calm, compassion, and dignity with an extra dose of gravity and empathy. Gregory Peck found love again not long after his first marriage ended. He wed Veronique Pisani, a journalist born in France 1932-2012, on New Year's Eve 1955, the very day his divorce from Greta was confirmed, in 1952. While Veronique was a reporter in Paris, she had her first contact with Peck before he left for Italy to shoot Roman Holiday, a picture that would become one of his most famous parts. She was given the task of interviewing him. Their encounter was so memorable that Peck contacted her again 6 months later to propose lunch. An eternal love story started with that one act. They quickly became inseparable, bound together not only by love but also by a passion for family, travel, and culture. Gregory and Veronique were blessed with the arrival of twins. Anthony Peck was born to them in 1956, and Cecilia Peck was born to them in 1958. Growing up, Anthony was determined to carry on his father's work, while he pursued a career in acting and gained notoriety for his marriage to supermodel Cheryl Tiegs, which was cut short by a divorce. Following in her father's footsteps as an actor, producer, and documentary filmmaker, Cecilia also immersed herself in the arts. His second marriage lasted longer than Peck's first. For almost 50 years, Gregory and Veronique were wed, in the years 1955-2003 when he passed away. Numerous Hollywood insiders spoke highly of their partnership, calling them one of the most devoted and enduring couples in the business. Being a grandfather was another important position for Gregory Peck, and he took great pride in seeing his family's legacy carried on over the years. Actor Ethan Peck, son of Stephen Peck, is one of his grandsons from both of his marriages. With his roles as Spock in Star Trek, Discovery, and Strange New Worlds, Ethan has continued the creative legacy of his family and become a household name in Hollywood. The principles of honesty, kindness, and respect that Gregory Peck possessed all through his life are carried on by his offspring, who carry on his work in Hollywood and beyond. The connection between Robert Mitchum and Gregory Peck, two of the most iconic actors of their time, was the subject of much speculation among Hollywood insiders and aficionados of classic films for many years. In their own unique ways, the two men exemplified towering stature, honesty, and magnetism in film. For roles such as To Kill a Mockingbird, in which he played the ultimate moral authority figure, Peck is often remembered for his honorable and dignified screen presence. The energy that Mitchum possessed was rough and unpredictable. He was one of the most alluring stars of the mid-century thanks to his icy distance and subtle menacing. Although their most well-known joint appearance was in 1962's Cape Fear, in which Peck played a principled lawyer and Mitchum a scary ex-con. Fans were left to speculate about the nature of their relationship between the two men, as neither of them ever discussed the other in detail. It was unclear if they were friends, rivals, or just professional colleagues who went their separate ways once filming ceased. Later in life, Gregory Peck decided to talk about it, and he gave some uncommon insight into his feelings about Robert Mitchum as a person and an actor. Although Peck is known for being reserved in public, his sincere praise of Mitchum's abilities shocked many. He conceded that he greatly admired Mitchum's artistry, despite the fact that their acting styles couldn't have been more different. Mitchum's relying on instinct, minimal rehearsal, and an effortless naturalism, compared to his own grounded in classical training, deliberate preparation, and a strong moral conviction. It was once said that Mitchum had an uncanny knack for fully immersing himself in a role. In his effortless manner, he accomplished it. Yet, such was the brilliance of his. This was a strong endorsement of Mitchum's charisma from Peck, whose career had been based on restraint and polish. Cape Fear, in which Peck and Mitchum were required to play diametrically opposed roles, was another memorable experience that the two performers recalled. In contrast to Mitchum, who personifies malevolence and intimidation, Peck exemplifies upright goodness. Even when he wasn't acting, Peck showed that Mitchum exuded a menacing presence, one that heightened the eeriness of Max Cady's character. Peck hastened to add, though, that Mitchum's intelligence and humor often helped lighten the atmosphere behind the scenes. His ability to diffuse difficult situations with a single sardonic comment or a fast laugh was something that made the lengthy, painful shoot more tolerable, according to him. According to Peck, it demonstrated that Mitchum was an expert in his field and had a gift for finding the right mix of humor and gravity in his work. The darker sides of Mitchum's notoriety were nonetheless addressed by Peck. Because of his history of defiance, run-ins with the law, and general disinterest in Hollywood norms, Mitchum had long felt like an outcast. Peck confessed that he occasionally found Mitchum's way of life perplexing, because he was a man who valued duty, family, and order. Interestingly, Peck seems to respect Mitchum's independence, rather than pass judgment on him. The way Peck put it, he was his own man. No one ever pressured him to conform to their ideal of a movie star. That is wonderful. I thought it took guts from him. That the reserved attorney in To Kill a Mockingbird and the gloomy antagonist in Out of the Past both understood the importance of being themselves was an astonishing revelation. Yet they may have phrased it differently. By finally speaking up about his relationship with Mitchum, Gregory Peck provided moviegoers with a unique look at the interaction between the two cinematic legends. He brought attention to the fact that the performers' complicated relationships impact Hollywood history more than the screenplays or studios themselves. Peck's remarks demonstrated an interest in, and perhaps even jealousy of, Mitchum's seemingly carefree approach, which he compared to his own strongly held principles of discipline and organization. What Peck ultimately communicated most effectively was his regard. Honor due to a fellow artist whose work, like his own, would be remembered long after the glamour of Hollywood's heyday had faded. At the age of 87, Gregory Peck died peacefully in his sleep on June 12, 2003, leaving behind one of the most iconic and adored actors of all time. After a lengthy life of personal achievements, professional laurels, and decades of influence both inside and beyond the film business, he passed away from bronchopneumonia, a deadly lung infection that typically affects the elderly. Since Peck was one of the most iconic individuals of Hollywood's golden age, respected for his poise, charisma, and the moral authority he brought to practically every part he played. His death marked the peaceful conclusion of a lengthy career, as well as a chapter in that era's history. Throughout his life and career, Los Angeles had played a pivotal role, beginning when he was a young actor fighting for recognition in Hollywood. Peck passed away at his home in this city. His death at home, where he had lived comfortably for so long, only added to the air of dignity and serenity with which he had always been described. The calm and stability that Peck cherished in his personal and professional life was mirrored in his death, in contrast to some of his contemporaries who met with catastrophic or turbulent ends. Veronique Pisani Peck, his loving second wife, was by his side as he lay dying, who had accompanied him nonstop for almost 50 years. An important part of Gregory's later life was the relationship he had with Veronique. Not only did they start a family together in 1955, not long after he filed for a divorce from his first wife, but they also established a foundation for their shared values, charitable work, and appreciation of the arts. His life was buoyed through the highs and lows of fame by Veronique, a French journalist he met on a press tour in Paris. She added cosmopolitan flair and unwavering support. The fact that she was by his side during his dying moments demonstrated how strong their bond was and how long their love story will go. Tributes to Peck came pouring in from other actors, filmmakers, political figures, and the innumerable fans who had grown up watching him on screen as word of his death spread rapidly around the globe. His passing hit close to home for many who mourned the loss of more than simply a Hollywood star, a person who embodied timeless values like honesty, kindness, and respect. He had already become a legend as a representation of righteousness and fairness, because to his 1962 performance as Atticus Finch in To Kill a Mockingbird. That picture was already moving before his death, and it became much more so. His peaceful passing, with Veronique by his side, felt appropriate for a man who had always emanated an air of quiet power, never requiring showmanship to garner admiration. After her husband passed away, Veronique did everything in her power to keep his legacy alive, passing on information about his work and the principles he upheld to future generations. Among the many friends, family, and admirers that showed up to the Los Angeles memorial services were some of Hollywood's most famous faces. The gentle majesty of his existence and the ageless parts he played ensure that his memory will live on long after he passed away.